what do you think has been instrumental in helping you progress your career?
Definitely telling people what I wanted. My biggest hurdle was getting from SC2 to senior. And I remember having conversations with my manager about my performance, and he'd be like, yeah, you're doing fine. And in my head, that meant, oh, I'll get promoted in a year or two. And then another year would go by and same message. At some point, I realized I was kind of in a very large team that kind of had the leaders. And I was like, if I just got a chance to be on a small team, I feel like people could see what I could do. And I told someone that, right? Someone that I think it was a director at the time. It wasn't immediate, but at some point I got that opportunity and I got to show what I could do. So you got to have specific goals and tell people about it. As you're moving up, people are looking for people that are kind of going to take a stand or have an opinion or drive something. And to drive something, you have to have kind of a mission or some sort of goal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't remember what question you asked me, but.
No. It was about like your career journey. So, I mean, no, you hit on it, and you hit on some great stuff in there as well. So,
I started talking, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to keep going.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Custom Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Baines. Really excited about today's guest, Ms. Jennifer Plummer. She is the product development manager.
Yeah, I think officially it's manager, product development, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Development manager, it's fine.
Nice. Well, I'm extremely excited about talking to you today, learning about your journey through tech. I always love when I can highlight women, especially Black women on this show. And so I'm like, hey, perfect opportunity to spotlight you, what you've been doing in your career journey. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited.
All right, cool. So look, let's go ahead and get into it. We have to start with what you do currently. So for that manager / product development role that you're in, kind of tell us a little bit about what you do and what's your role at Pros.
Right. So I have experience as a software engineer, and now I lead a team of about 15 people. I kind of have two teams, actually, that are software teams. And so my company has enterprise software in the cloud. So they have different areas of responsibility. So my role on the team is to, one, the professional development of the people on my team. So I have one-on-ones with them. I talk about career development. I give them feedback on their performance. I help them move to the next role, or, that sort of thing. Then on the software side, we have certain software development processes, Agile. I think everyone does Agile, but how that relates to designing software, getting requirements from product development, having my technical leaders write up the design, moving those requirements to a design requirement, and then refining that, because it goes back and forth, which I'm guessing is the same where you're coming from. And then getting that we use Jira, whatever application you're doing, to actual stories that at the level that we can pull into our sprints, and just kind of facilitating that process and making sure that we don't skip any steps, or making sure we've got alignment, because sometimes the people giving you the requirements speak a different language than the people that are writing the code. And so making sure everybody understands each other. And then the other piece of what I do is, we're supporting the application that's running. So support issues or customer escalations, communicating with customers, communicating with other organizations internally when they need help from the development team, and kind of being that gateway, and making sure as a team, the team is balanced between implementing new features, helping with support, and other distractions that could kind of come in.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I'm just a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Just being like, please let these people work, and you talk to me for a while, and then I'll figure out who you need to talk to, and I'm going to kind of figure out priority-wise,
Gotcha.
who to interrupt and stuff like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think because a lot of times there's a communication gap between the business needs, or the marketing and business side of the house, versus the technical team, and a lot of times those are different personalities in general, but then also like they communicate differently. And so there needs to be like a liaison. And so it seems like you do some of that as well
Yeah.
as like, it kind of sounds like, is there like, would that be some of the Scrum Master that kind of does that as well? Or like,
So
how
I,
does
I
that
would
work?
say the scrum master of our team is more attuned to the development team internally, right? The
Okay.
who's working on what ticket, are we on I also kind of develop the roadmap and the timeline of when we're delivering things. So
Gotcha.
the scrum master's making sure that as we're pulling things into sprints, we're not pulling in too much, and then unblocking people if they're unable to finish the task they're assigned.
Okay.
I'm kind of more external to the development team and collaborating with the different other organizations and kind of helping filter gets put on the roadmap for the team to do.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I got you. Cool. All right, nice. So that's really cool. So on your team, like, who do you kind of supervise? Is it software engineers, Scrum Master, like who all makes up your team?
It's a team of software engineers, and this kind of at different levels.
Yeah.
So at my company, entry level, well, we have interns, but after intern is software engineer one. So that's kind of you're right out of college, or you just learned the skill. This is your first job, essentially, at that kind of level that you're at. Then a software engineer two is kind of, I've kind of proven myself technically, and I understand the software development process. And then next is senior, where it's kind of like I understand the process, I'm technically proficient, and I've kind of shown that I can lead my own little a feature or set of features, kind of things that I can do on my own without direction from more senior people.
Yeah.
So then after that is a technical lead, and they're kind of they're the technical leader. So they're kind of helping everyone on they're kind of my counterpart, the tech lead and architect, where I'm kind of organizing things. They're organizing everything technical. So
Gotcha.
code reviews, design reviews, mentoring and coaching if people get stuck, right? If they get blocked on their and they don't know how to implement something, they're the ones helping them through the
overstack.
Stack Overflow comes in very handy. People probably be surprised how often people Google things for their jobs, which is what I tell people in job interviews too, by the way. It's like, let's relax, it's gonna be okay. Just let's go. Anyway, I'm still explaining. So then we also have a thing that's principal. It's kind of a little different, but just means that you have a lot of technical experience, but you're not so interested in being technical lead, which kind of has more responsibilities at leading others. Those are kind of the levels, and then so those are all kind of software engineers. But then we kind of have different roles as well. The majority of the team are back-end engineers. So our application is mostly Java, so they're writing Java code. We have also a small portion of UI development, which we're using JavaScript and React.
Okay.
And then we're also it's a cloud solution in Azure. So our team is responsible for part of the operations side. So deploying, managing Azure and that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the composition of the team.
Neat. All right, cool. Thanks for breaking that down. I was just curious, like how the team was structured and like what everybody's role is. So I appreciate you for breaking that down.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Nice. So I want to know, we always got to get into like the origin story, right? Like what brought you here? And I know you're a big Marvel fan, so you're familiar with like
everyone
origins.
has their origin story.
Yes, exactly. So I didn't say it in the intro, but you have a bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland.
Baltimore County.
Baltimore County, okay. With a minor in computer science.
With a minor in computer science.
All right, and then also a master's degree in information systems.
And technology. From Johns Hopkins.
From Johns Hopkins, okay. And so like looking at your profile, I saw that you were like in the Baltimore, Maryland area. So I just assumed that that's where you were from. But talking to you, found out you're from like all over the place.
There's a few Marylanders here in Texas. But yeah. Actually, my neighbor was my college roommate.
Really?
So yeah, we live like 2 miles apart now. It's kind of wild. So yeah, there's a few people from the DMV out here.
Cool. So like and you went this technical route. You don't very often find as many Black women in STEM as we would like to see. But like, what was the spark to get you into STEM and everything?
I don't know. I always liked math, I guess.
Yeah.
Going through school, I always liked math. I really didn't know what you could do, right? I didn't know
Yeah.
what I wanted to be when I grew up, I guess. And when I graduated high school, I think I was thinking about being a physical therapist because I kind of
Okay.
did sports and I kind of understood what that job would be.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is I applied for the Meyerhoff program at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
All right.
And that was just a great program for encouraging and empowering Black students in STEM. And so, based on my grades and based on what they saw, they were like, they're kind of like, shoot for the stars. Don't, why physical therapist? Don't you want to be a doctor? Or,
Yep.
And just being influenced and seeing, right, they're showing examples of people who had, gone to grad school, gotten PhDs, MDs, and that sort of thing. And so that kind of covered all of STEM. And so at that point, I was kind of like, oh, I'll be a doctor. I'm like, well, I'll just be a doctor. And so I was thinking, oh, I'll be a bio major. And I took bio lab, and I was like,
this ain't it.
Lab was like a 4-hour windowless room, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And then I kind of remembered my math teacher, my calculus teacher from high school, being like, you should major in math. And I remember kind of laughing at it when she said it. And so at that point, I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I like math, so let me do it. And so through that, then you have to do like I think for one of the prerequisites, you have to do like a coding class to get your math degree. So I did that, and I was like, oh, I really like this. So I was like, I'll add this on as a minor. And then that's kind of how I ended up math degree, comp sci minor. And then I think it was a NSBE. I probably went to like some NSBE career fair or, job fair. And IBM was there, and they selected me and a few other of my classmates to go to Atlanta. And so I'm in Baltimore. You go to Atlanta, and they kind of told us about IBM, and it was kind of geared toward Black people in STEM, Hispanics in STEM, and again, showing us the people that work at IBM that look like us, and so that kind of helped me kind of think, yeah, I think I can do this. And so from there, I ended up getting a job as I'm blanking on what the title was, but basically a consultant, like a software consultant, and that's where I started my job in my career as a software engineer. And I think what I like about it is problem solving. It's like that form of problem solving. And, to this day, I'm, on a day, we're solving problems, like things work as you expected and sometimes they don't. And so you got to figure that out. And at the end, once you figure it out, you feel like really fulfilled. And so that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, I think at its core, that's what, regardless of what exact major you choose, within the STEM field, it always goes back to like problem solving and like coding. I just view coding as like a puzzle. And it's like, hey, let me like put the pieces together. And like when you finally figure it out, like you probably been banging your head on the wall a couple hours for a bug. But
we're always like, what changed? What changed? Yeah. Something happened, blah, blah, blah. And then when you put it together, you're like, yeah, we figured it out.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I think it's cool. Well, you mentioned the Meyerhoff program. Like, what is that? Is that like a full ride, or like how does that kind of work?
It depends, and I think it's changed over the years, which I think it's in like year 32 or something. I was class 6.
Okay.
We refer to ourselves M6 as the cohort,
M6,
the 6th
right.
class.
Dope.
So they're like on 32 now. So I don't know quite what the parameters around it now. When my class joined, it was exclusively for Black students, but it's not exclusive anymore. But it's still focused on underrepresented people. I mean, there's white people in it as well. So it's just letting people know, if you're going to join the program, we're going to be talking a lot about Black people in STEM, and if you're cool with that or whatever. So like your freshman year, you have summer bridge. So you go in the summer before freshman year starts, and it's like, I can't remember, it was like 6 weeks, and you're taking a few classes just to kind of get you acclimated to the college campus and environment, setting up study groups, how do you,
kind of you do college and be successful.
Yeah, getting those habits, working those relationships, which basically lasted through my whole college education is these are the people that I can reach out to when I want to study for something, or do you have copies of old tests, or can you help me with my homework? I need a tutor, blah blah blah. We just kind of already built that network in, which I think was immense because my parents didn't go to school and they didn't really have any advice for me in that respect. So I would have just showed up on day one and been like, okay, it's just like high school. And then I would have been in for I remember just being, when I saw someone going through the catalog and like figuring out what classes to take. I was used to high school where they tell you what class to take, right? You might have a choice between, oh, do I want to take PE or weightlifting? Okay, I'll take PE. But it was like going through the catalog, and I remember being like, oh, and just kind of,
it's a lot
figuring that out. The other big thing the Meyerhoff program did was build up your confidence. It was like the first thing you learn, even because they had us there overnight for like, it was a selection weekend. I can't remember, but you're going there to interview and doing that. And you come in the evening, you spend the night, and then you have a whole bunch of stuff to do through the day. Yeah. And they make you come in and introduce yourself on like when you first get there, and you'll be like, I'm Jennifer Plummer. I run track and blah, blah, blah. Excuse me? They'll be like, you need to enunciate. You need to promote what you're doing. My name is Jennifer Plummer. I'm manager of product development at Pros. I lead the real-time pricing engine team. The teams kick ass, blah, blah, blah. We do this, blah, 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 blah. So, nice. Just kind of really teaching you to own what you're doing instead of kind of shrinking. Yeah, exactly. Shrinking into, oh, it's no big deal. I just do this. No. You did something that's great. So project and let people know what you did.
Yeah. That's a good point. I wonder like why we do that. Just thinking like, I don't know if we're just taught like not to be like braggadocious or whatever, but there's a good skill that like they taught you to do that.
I think it's a lot of different things. I think it's like, I wasn't the top of my class, or so I was like, I'm smart, but I'm not the smartest person in the class.
I got you.
So it's kind of like, what am I bragging about? But it's like,
is it kind of like imposter syndrome, kind of, or like.
Yeah, that's I think that comes in a lot. I don't know what else. I think it's, well, number one, I think we're talking about before we started recording. Like, my dad was in the government. I didn't even know what he did for a living until I was probably 35 years old. I was like, oh, it's all, figuring things out. Oh, so it's not like I had any experience with him as a professional. Like, he was just my dad. Yeah. And then my mom was like an admin. So, that's also not a role that gets a spotlight, right? I know she did a lot of things and like kind of, kept an office in order, but also, the spotlight isn't on the admin all the time. So I think it's also the lack of that example. And then you kind of, I think the other thing is, which I have another funny story. In the examples you see of people like you that, that are not in your immediate family are usually athletes or entertainers, right? Yeah. And like, rappers are going to be like, I'm the best at this. I'm the richest, blah, 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 Meanwhile, you ever hear this fact that Slick Rick was wearing like his grandmother's fur coat? I didn't know that. So, right, they'll people, but that's like the bravado that it's okay for rappers or artists to do. And like athletes, right, they have stats behind it. It's like, I scored the most goals or whatever. And I don't know how that translates into a regular person's life. So it's not like I could say, I got a 3.8 GPA. What's up? Yeah. It's like, that's weird. People don't do that.
No, not at all. Especially not in our community. Not at all. It's like the opposite of that. So
so we need to do that, right? Yeah. We need to normalize that or make that a thing. But I guess that's tougher. Artists, entertainers, and athletes are always going to be cooler than.
True. We can turn the tide. We can try. I mean, like I told you earlier, you're giving me like Janelle Monáe vibes right now. So, I mean, I think we're doing our part, Jennifer, to like, make us look cooler. I mean, you're relatable. So, cool. It works out. Yeah. But, so thanks for like breaking all that down. I think like in so many conversations that we have, and people that we know in our network individually, like we're oftentimes the first in our family to like go to college for engineering or math or whatever. So I can completely relate to like just showing up on campus not knowing what to do. But like organizations like Nesby, Meyerhoff, is that the name of it? And
Yeah.
like these people that like help you like get acclimated and be successful is so important, you know? So I think that's great that you got a chance to get plugged into those opportunities.
Yeah.
while there.
Wouldn't be here without it. I don't know where I would be, but I'm just thankful that I was able to participate in that because I learned a lot.
Great. So once you graduated from University of Maryland, Baltimore County,
UMBC.
yeah, right. Worked at IBM for a little bit. I saw you kind of bounce around like after that before getting the pros. Kind of tell me like in a
So
quick.
IBM was great, and that this is another thing of youth that you don't. I think in hindsight, maybe I would have stayed at IBM longer, but at IBM, I left there because I felt like I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted to. And it's not like they refused, but they were, you get on a contract and you have to kind of wait for that one to roll off to go into another one. And I was kind of like, I want to do this. So I ended up leaving IBM to go to another software company, and then that one was fun and I did learn a lot, but then that was like the .com crash, so that didn't end up well. And then I kind of bounced around for a little while, and then I ended up in Texas, and I ended up at Pros, and it's been there 17 years. It's interesting because at that time I think I had lost some of the confidence that I had after I graduated. Really? And people that work with me now don't believe this, but when I first started working at Pros, I was kind of shrinking and trying to go into the background and kind of like, I'm gonna just do my thing every day, and at some point someone will notice me. And that's another. If I was gonna go back and give myself advice, like, no, remember that bravado we learned at UMBC, do that again, because I was kind of in my shell, and it took me a while, and I think that's when my introverted nature started coming out. I was like, these are new people. It's easy to be confident when you're kind of around other people that you grew up with, but then when you're off on your own, it's a little harder and kind of further removed. So it took me a while. Once I got comfortable with everyone, I think that's when the me came out. And so I started there as a software engineer too. So not entry level, but more of a junior person. And I've really had the opportunity to grow there, and not only lead an engineering team, but get involved and kind of start some of the employee resource groups that are going on there. And that's kind of given me confidence. And I kind of feel like I'd like to say that I've kind of formed some of the culture there. Maybe people I work with would agree or disagree, but I always have opinions, and that's kind of stuff I look for people like, do you have an opinion? You just kind of going through the motions, or especially when you're talking about like a leadership position or a senior level position, have a take on something one way or the other, just because otherwise, if you just kind of go with the flow, then we're looking for, as you're moving up, people are looking for people that are kind of going to take a stand or have an opinion or drive something. And to drive something, you have to have kind of a mission or some sort of goal. Yeah. So, I can't remember what question you asked me, but.
No. It was about like your career journey. So, I mean, no, you hit on it, and you hit on some great stuff in there as well. So,
I started talking, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep going.
Keep going. So I didn't mention it, guys, but Jennifer also has a podcast, ran through Pros. It's called Empower.
Empower is the name of the Black Employee Resource Group, and the name of the podcast is Interface. All right, cool. Yeah.
No, you just got in podcast mode just now. It's cool. It's not. If you go too far off the deep end, I would have been like, yo, Jennifer, come back home. Come back. But no, you're good. You're good. So I think like number one, like going back to IBM, you said like you kind of left earlier than you thought you would. I think like in our youth, we're like, yo, opportunities aren't coming as quick as I want. Like, let me jump around.
And in hindsight, and I tell people this all the time, like I said, how was I older, like 21, 22-year-old me to Atlanta to say, this is IBM. We DEI, I don't know if that's a term they used back then, but the diversity, we want to make sure we're diverse with Hispanics and Black people. Come here. We're going to tell you about IBM. We're going to tell you about the opportunities. And I just took for granted that all companies were like that.
Yeah.
And they are not. So that's why I kind of feel like I didn't give it a chance, because I was kind of naive to think that I would find that everywhere. And I worked in like Hershey, Pennsylvania for a few years.
That sounds like.
And it definitely was different atmosphere than Gaithersburg, which is, or no, I think I worked in Bethesda, Maryland, where IBM was. So I just took for granted. I just never thought, because the DMV is kind of like Houston, right? It's a very diverse area.
It was Chocolate City back in the day.
Chocolate City. Yeah, I think it's still, DC is still Chocolate City.
It is still?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah. Just seeing people, maybe you don't work with them, but knowing that there's an atmosphere where you could belong there. And just, I didn't realize what it was like just, a few hours outside of there. So that was a reality check for me. And prose has been great, but it's right. It's definitely, having conversation, at least, I've had the opportunity to have those conversations, but, it's kind of where IBM was intentionally going out and recruiting people. Other companies are just kind of like, well, we hired you, and, we'll happen along some other people too. And it's like,
let's be intentional.
You didn't get me by accident. It was right. It was a fault. I went through Meyerhoff. I went to IBM, blah, 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 and then I ended up here. Maybe that was random, but you wouldn't have gotten me if I hadn't gone through all these other places first. So, having that intentionality behind it, I think, is important.
Yeah, I think that's key. Like, I didn't even really think about that, but there are like so many intentional moments in our lives that kind of get us to where we're at. So like Nesby, Meyerhoff, IBM, you had 3 major instances, and probably even more before you ended up at Prose. And I know I've had some in my own personal life. So I think that kind of speaks to the importance of it. And so I think it's great. That's one of the reasons why I love that you created like the ERG group at Prose, because I think another part is like the retention component. Like when you get in these companies and it doesn't look like you, and you don't really have a strong culture of inclusivity, like you need to be able to have like that group that you can rely on. And our communities, especially communities of color, are like that. Where like we need that circle of people that we can kind of like bounce ideas off of.
You need to have people that you're comfortable with. And I think that's, so I started, Prose's first ERG was Blaze, which is the women's organization. And that was because I definitely felt like, I can't remember, when I started what the percentage were at the time, but it's always felt like, oh, there's only 1 or 2 women in the room, and I'm the one that always has to leave to, pick kids up, or, leave early to pick my kids up, or take kids to the doctor's appointment. And I don't see, other people doing that, or not misogynistic, but like, usually conversations that always kind of skew to like a kind of a male conversation. Is like, I don't have anyone to have girl talk with. Like, I just want to have some girl talk. And that's kind of what, where I was kind of like, oh, I can't remember if it was Chatter or whatever it was back then. I just created a group and started just to post articles and things that were kind of women's issues, balancing things like that. And that's how that grew. And then the other ERGs kind of got formed after that one. So that was good. And Empower is so precious to me because, I wasn't even thinking, I was kind of thinking women because I was a mother. I had younger kids at that time. But even today, like I'm just so thankful for the people I've met through Empower, because I don't, have, especially other Black women. I don't work with any. And so sometimes when something's going through, I can like shout out to Sierra, my co-host, like something happened to me the other day and I'm like, Sierra, can you believe this happened? Like there was no one else that I could
Yeah.
talk to about that. And it's without that, what I would have probably felt very alienated,
Yeah.
or just wouldn't have had an outlet to get out my frustration. And being able to talk to someone who understands where I'm coming from is just very, I could talk to my mom, but then my mom doesn't get work,
The
right?
intricacies of
Right.
like,
So
yeah.
she'll be like, there, she'll be empathetic, but at the same time, she'll be like, yeah, like what? She doesn't, she
Yeah.
can't give me like kind of firsthand knowledge. So it's just having people you work with that you can communicate with, very, very important.
Gotcha. I like that. So you've been at Pros for 17 years, went from software engineering to manager of product development. What do you think has been instrumental in helping you progress your career from junior level to management role?
Definitely telling people what I wanted more specifically. My biggest hurdle was getting from SE2 to senior. And I remember having conversations with my manager about my performance, and he'd be like, yeah, you're doing fine. And in my head, that meant, oh, I'll get promoted in a year or two. And then another year would go by and same message. And I think at some point I realized I was kind of in a very large team that kind of had the leaders. And I was like, if I just got a chance to be on a small team and I work with small people, I feel like people could see what I could do. And I told someone that, right? Someone that I think it was a director at the time. And, I was like, yeah, just 4 or 5 people, I think I could lead a team and do something. And, it wasn't immediate, but at some point I got that opportunity and I got to show what I could do.
To being vocal.
Yeah. So you got to have specific goals and tell people about it. And then find things that give you confidence. Because this was also around the time where Blaze was kind of starting up. So I was having those conversations and leading that sort of thing. And it was also maybe a year or so after that we used to do this thing called innovation cells, which was kind of another kind of gender thing that I had self-doubt about. So basically it was an innovation cell. There's be 2 teams and they could kind of think about a hackathon, but kind of on a longer scale where you had enough time to really do a working POC on some idea. And there'd been a couple iterations before I was in.
POC stands for?
Proof of concept.
Okay.
Proof of concept. So there have been several iterations before, and it had been obviously mostly men. And then even if there were women, it was like people that could be, they were like in the office. They kind of come in late because software engineers kind of tend to come in late, but they would be there till late in the night. And, I had kids, so I knew I had to be like out of the door like 5:30, 5:36. So I was like, oh, that's not for me, whatever. So it was starting up again, and there was actually a team that was like, oh, we heard you would be good for this because of your organization skills, and we need a UI. I think I was doing more UI at that time. We need a UI developer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I was like, I gotta be home. And they were like, no, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. Do what you can. And this is before COVID. So we actually had access to be able to work from home, but we just didn't do it very often.
I guess.
So, so I was like, yeah, they were like, yeah, do what you can. So I would kind of do my normal office time, and then if I had extra time in the evenings, I'd log in and work. And we won. So it's just 2 teams going against each other, and so we had a great idea. We organized, and then I helped. We had to do a presentation at the end to leadership, and then we won.
Nice. And so did you lead that team, or like you were helping with like the organization and also
it's
the technical?
There 4 of us, I think. Oh, my memory is bad, but it was at least 4 of us, but like everyone kind of played their part. But yeah, I would say I was in the kind of like a manager, like the lead role, where okay, we need to do a presentation. This is the content we need in our presentation, blah, 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 what's going on, and kind of syncing up with the other people to fit all the pieces together. So that gave me confidence. So I think as you have your day. So, going back to how do you get from software engineer to manager, you have your day job,
Yeah.
but look for opportunities outside of your day job to kind of enhance your skills or get your name out. Because that competition was kind of one of those things that leadership was judging. So obviously they were going to see who was participating. So that gets your name out there. And then if there isn't anything, you can always invent something.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Like one of the first things my very first manager told me at GM was you're gonna get more noticed far more for the things that you do outside of 9 to 5 than the things you do between 9 to 5. And so like whether it's volunteering, like if your organization, your company is really big in volunteering initiatives, do that, or leadership roles, whatever, like raise your hand, get involved if you're trying to like move.
Yeah. Don't fly under the radar. Get out there and do something, and that'll also help you find out what you like to do, right?
Yeah.
Because I think my earliest aspiration is I just want to get promoted. I didn't really think about I want to be a manager, but through all that, I was like, oh no, I like collaborating with people in different teams. I like, driving towards a goal, a group of people towards a goal. And I don't think I would have figured that out if I hadn't kind of had this other stuff going on as well.
Gotcha. I love that. Yeah, I think it's those opportunities that help you figure out what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. And that's kind of what led us here today with this podcast. So ironic. Well, let me ask you this. What's kind of like your end goal, like the vision for you? You have like 2 kids that are like one that up
out
there,
of the house.
Out of the house.
One 3 years away.
Dang, you should count down.
Count down.
Jennifer, you'll see.
I love that. I love you guys. But yes.
Very convincing.
3 more years.
All right. I got you. But like, what's like your end game like for you? Is it continue to move up or just making an impact?
I definitely want to continue to move up. And this is why this is a constant thing in your career, right? I'm not quite exactly sure what directors and VPs, obviously I know there's some sort of hierarchy, but how do I get from, right now I'm in the process of kind of figuring out what do I need to do to get from where I am now to director to VP. But yeah, I continue to keep climbing until I'm like tired of working.
I got you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. In your experience, like, do they have like opportunities for people to hear about like an AMA kind of thing? Like Ask Me Anything with the director, like how do you get to here? Or is it just like your network? How do you figure that out?
I think the company is small enough, right? Like, I know my director, I know people that have been directors, so I can just be like, hey, you want to have a one-on-one or let's go to lunch? And I could probably ask them questions. I need to do that. I need to follow my advice because I have not done that. But
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. That's another thing. You can if you meet people around the way, I think, especially with LinkedIn, it's so easy to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I've done it for my podcast. I know you're doing it for your
my
podcast.
go-to.
I think the same for mentorship or advice. If you're searching around and you see someone whose career looks interesting and you want to learn about them, I think it's message them. In general, people like to talk about themselves and they'll share something with you.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason like why I've been surprised like how easily I've been able to find guests for the most part for the podcast, because like either A, somebody has something they're trying to promote, or B, like people like talking about themselves, and like I love going on other people's podcasts. I get to talk about what I'm doing, so it's completely understandable. So I think that's great. Like definitely leverage LinkedIn if you don't have the network already, and then sky's the limit. So cool. Let's along that same like vein of like professional development, like since you do a lot of professional development coaching and things like that for your team members, like what are some of the things that you kind of notice for like some of the junior level or entry level people that they need to work on to like improve themselves professionally?
Big thing I see all the time, and I'm guilty of this as well, is if you're working on something that you need to share with people, like maybe it's a presentation or prototype or something, and you want it to be perfect before you share it, because then people were like, okay,
That's hard though, Jennifer. I agree with you.
like you've been working on this for weeks. Like, come on, just show me what you have. And I think everybody understands that with more time, things will be better, right?
Yeah.
I know you're going to think of, oh, I can make this better if I just have one more day.
Yeah.
You're never going to be satisfied. Time box it to something that is reasonable and share it. And then you will get feedback. Because if you're, number one, you want the feedback sooner in case you are going down the wrong path. Number two, it might be good enough to convey what you're trying to do. So doing all that extra work is just extra work for no reason.
Yeah.
I can't remember three, but the point is, the point, like, just share. It also helps with your networking and collaboration that you're getting out there, communicating your ideas. So you're working on that. So if it's not perfect, you need to find a way to package it so you're conveying the idea that you want to do. So that's something I see a lot. The other thing would be to understand whatever it is you're working on, the business reason that you're doing it. So, for us at Pros, it's usually, like I said, I work on the real-time pricing engine team. So companies are trying to connect to our services so that they can populate their online catalogs quickly because there's a person at the end of a browser that needs to get a price. So I didn't really explain what real-time pricing engine is, but it's a call to an evaluation, and our customers have pretty complicated ways of calculating the prices for their products. It could be hundreds of elements, and then we have other products under the covers that it might call out to get guidance on, this is your recommended target price or whatever. So it's pretty complicated evaluations. And so they come through our services, and we have a service level agreement, SLA. I remember to do the acronym that time, to return that call in 700 milliseconds. Gotcha. So you could come in as a junior person and be like, oh, we just have, we need to do 700 milliseconds, right? This call just needs to happen in 700 milliseconds. But understanding, oh, no, there's a customer. There are sales, the customer salespeople are sitting, negotiating with their customer. And so they don't want to wait for, all these prices to come back in, seconds. It needs to be quick. And we're right? It's probably integrated with other things. So there's other overhead to it. So understanding how all that fits in is important.
Wow. Okay, cool. So I want to talk about the real-time pricing later in a minute, but to recap the professional development, like when you mentioned like get it out there, share like what you've been working on, I feel like that's something that a lot of us struggle with, like in the tech or STEM field in general, or just people in general. Like I remember one of my supervisors previously was like, yo, like when you're working on something, you go silent and like I'm gonna figure out whatever problem I got going on, like, and you just go radio silent. But he's like, do the opposite, like start screaming from the mountaintop what you're doing, what problems you're having or whatever, so that people can kind of come in and help support. And then also, so like you said, you can make sure you're going down the right path.
Yeah. So
that's a big one that you threw out. I felt like,
I think it also goes into telling people what you're doing or telling people how you are doing interesting things. Don't wait to tell them when you're done. It's kind of also important to say, hey, I'm researching this, or I'm trying to solve this problem. It's also interesting. It's also information for people that you've recognized a problem and you're trying to find a solution for that. Because some people, right, are just go through the motions every day and they're not really thinking about solving the problem. But I definitely want to pull someone into my team that I know is thinking through things and is at least identifying a problem almost as hard as solving it sometimes. Kind of like, someone's like, well, all these bad things keep happening, but I don't know what to do about it. Oh, no, I figured out one of the reasons why this happens is this, and now I'm trying to find a solution for that. That's the type of independent thinker, critical thinker that I want on my team.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. I got one quick, give me a short answer for the real-time pricing engine. Like, are y'all like, is it any kind of product? Like, let's say I got like a body scrub, like, and I need to know how to price it, or can y'all do services as well? Like, let's say I need to know how much to charge for public speaking. Like, is it like any kind of product?
Most of our customers have some sort of tangible product. It's not a service.
Okay.
I feel like we have had, and so real-time pricing engine is part of, which the name changes a lot right now. It's smart pricing and optimization, but an
Okay.
earlier iteration of that, there's basically another application that kind of does, it's not real-time, but it is pricing.
Okay.
That we have configured that solution for a customer that was selling services and not products. But generally, these are large companies that have a large catalog that have complicated pricing.
Okay.
And in general, most companies are using some sort of Excel to figure out their prices
What?
before they come to us. So yeah, we make it a lot better. We're much better than Excel. Come to Pros for your pricing solution. I think I love our new marketing camp. We just got a new chief marketing officer, and he's like, Pros is the best kept secret. And he has this skit it's on LinkedIn. It's at first I was like, this corny, but by the end I was laughing. But it's like he's being interrogated, and like Pros is the best kept secret about how great our how great our solutions are. So yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool. All right, nice. So I was debating if I was gonna do this, but I want to play a little game.
Oh boy.
Fact or cap. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm gonna give you like some statements or questions. If you think it's true, say fact. If you think it's false, say cap.
Fact or cap.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So fact or cap, college tuition should be free.
Fact.
Okay, cool. Why do you say that?
I feel like if anyone should be able to go to school, and price shouldn't be a blocker for that. So
Okay.
if you want to go to school and you've shown that you will succeed in school, be that I don't know how we're judging this day, if SATs or grades or whatever. Whatever the criteria is, if you've shown that you have the aptitude to go to school, then you should get the opportunity to go to school.
Gotcha. I like it. All right, number 2, fact or cap. What you know is more important than who you know.
Oh, that's so hard.
And I rephrased it, yeah. So what you know is more important than who you know.
I think I'm gonna have to go cap.
All right, so it's who you know. All right.
I mean, you can't be a dummy, but if you can know a lot of things, but if you don't know the right people, it's not gonna get you anywhere.
All right. No, I agree 100%. 100%. All right, fact or cap. Coding boot camps are a great alternative for college degrees.
I'm gonna say fact. I don't have a lot of experience in this. I think most of the people that I know that went through a boot camp had a college degree in something else and were switching careers. So I've never met anyone actually that's completely skipped undergrad and just gone to a coding camp. So I can't say that for a fact, but I do know that the people that, if you are ambitious, if you're a hard worker, and if you get that fundamental training at a boot camp, and that boot camp, pick a boot camp that is also helping you find that next role that you're going to get after you graduate boot camp. If you do all that, I think you could succeed.
Okay. I'm going to have a follow-up for you on that one, but one last fact or cap question. Fact or cap. Black Panther is the best Marvel movie ever.
Oh, why'd you put me on the spot? Is it the best? So, it's up there. I'm gonna go fact because I'm not gonna be on record not saying fact right now. I also like. I think Infinity War.
All right, give me a close number 2 then.
Infinity
Wars.
Winter Soldier, and the introduction of the Black Panther character from Civil War.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll let it slide.
They're running down the tunnel.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
That's a good Black Panther scene. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, nice. All right, that's it. You did good. I had to throw the Marvel one in there because I know.
Oh, you're about to get me in trouble. Yeah. There's no way I'm going to go on record saying Black Panther is the best because it is.
All right, cool. Looking forward to the sequel.
I remember I wore I had some.
You had
I had like a.
You were in there.
I have this cute little jacket that's like got like a African print on it. So that's what I did because I live in Pearland, so it's like I don't know how hard I can go in parallel, but
Yeah.
that's what I did. So we'll have to see about. I've heard people are going to wear white to
Oh, for
Wakanda
like
Forever.
the yeah, okay. We
I
gotta
don't
we gotta get on
know.
Black Twitter and find
I
out
need to
what's
find
going
out. I
on.
think I'm going to prepare for that.
All right,
I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to prepare for that one.
it's too much. Yeah, I got you. Cool. All right, great job, Jennifer. No, I like to switch it up and have fun with it when I can. So I appreciate you for being a good sport on that. Yo, so let's talk about the boot camp some more, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to throw that out there because I think a lot of people are looking for alternatives to just going to college. Like when I was in school, the school I went to, it was like 20 grand a year. And first 2 years, it was like loans and loans, loans on top of loans. And so people don't want to do that. Like they're like, yo, student loan debt is crazy. Biden is not canceling none of this debt for nobody. Like he said he was. Like, what else can we do? So certifications, boot camps, and all that stuff. So like from your standpoint as a manager of a tech company, at a tech company, like, are you starting to see these be more adopted in industry? Like, are you guys hiring people with certifications or with good portfolios and with boot camp?
Again, it's intentionality. So I have
Okay.
seen, I remember I wasn't in a leadership role at the time, but I remember a time when like it's almost like a whole class of boot campers came in and is people, and like I said, the ones that I knew personally had gotten their undergrad in something but
Yeah.
had decided to change careers and done boot camp. And that was a great opportunity. They were successful at pros. I think we don't have a focus on it right now. Because sometimes when you're recruiting, you're just cut and pasting the previous job description, sad to say. And
Yeah.
I'm a hiring manager, so I'm guilty of this. And it's hard to work with recruiters to say, what I'm saying is, I want someone with this many experience in this language, or and a undergrad degree or the equivalent.
Yeah.
And I think when I meet people, I understand what that means, but recruiters don't necessarily know what that means. So I think you need to intentionally pull that in and have that conversation with recruiters so they understand. Or I've heard a lot of talk about how to rewrite job descriptions to make it more inclusive to that. And I think we need to invest, because I know I'm not good at writing job descriptions, and so I definitely not good at, how do I tweak it to be inclusive, because I definitely want to do that. I just don't know how to do that.
I got you. No, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you're like so transparent and bringing that up. 'Cause I know a lot of people, they see entry-level jobs and they're like, why are they asking for 5 years of experience on this job posting, or like all those kind of things. So I think it might be another like communication issue between like the hiring manager and the recruiters, and then what's actually needed for the roles. So I've started to see like some people like look at the roles that they have at their company and be like, do we actually need a bachelor's degree for this?
Right.
Like, or can we be like more intentional, like you're saying?
Yeah.
So,
That's why. And I've had recruiters also say, yeah, do you really need this many? They'll try and push back and say this or that, and for me, it's usually, like I said, we're Java. So it's usually like, oh, for a senior, I want 7 years. For a SC2, I want 3 years. Or an SC1, college experience is fine. Or see, that's how it goes. It should be, some, educational experience. Maybe that's the inclusive terminology or something. Instead of saying college experience, yeah.
Gotcha. So what do you value as a hiring manager?
I will look at where they were educated, but usually the first thing I do when I get a resume is I search it for Java.
So you're looking
for
at
that
GitHub.
Key term.
Oh, you're looking for Java on the resume.
I'm looking for the key term Java, and then I read the sentence in to see in what context Java was used.
Okay.
And my job description, I think college experience may be the first bullet. College experience or equivalent, I think is where I put it. And then second is Java.
Okay.
And then I would be, if I was hiring for real-time pricing engine, which is a pretty complex microservice architecture, and usually the way the interview process goes. So I know you're trying to get to how do I get to the interview process, but what I'm looking for when I interview someone is, and I usually do the initial interview and I'll pass it on to a technical person on my team to do a second interview if they get past me. And so what I'm looking for is you can eloquently speak about the things you put on your resume. So if you said I did a project in Java that did X, Y, and Z, I'll ask you, tell me about this project you did using Java. And I could usually, based on that conversation, tell if someone really did what they did or if they understood what they were doing, right? Again, not just knowing the business or knowing I'm writing this to do this, but knowing why you're using these tools instead of other tools.
Gotcha.
So I'll kind of try to dig into that and just kind of understand the overall thing. So when I'm looking at resumes, I'm looking for interesting projects. Like I said, I look for Java first, and I kind of look, how did they use it? And then, is that something that makes sense? Because sometimes people put things on the resume that don't make sense. If it makes sense, then I'm like, okay, if this person did this, I want to talk to them. I don't think, I would never only give someone a first interview just because Harvard or something was on their resume, right? I would still be like, okay, did they use Java? Okay, if they didn't, it's not gonna work.
So the first thing you're looking for is Java on a resume.
Yeah.
And then maybe looking at, okay, what kind of interesting projects did they work on? Is that number 2?
Yeah. Okay. And then because I'm a Black woman, I will look through usually there's a section on like extracurricular activities, trying to gauge.
Okay. Jennifer, can you say this on the record?
I was trying to, I'm always looking for opportunities.
So you're looking for NSBE.
If I see NSBE or a women's organization or something, I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
No one's going to get a job just because.
Of course.
Something
no,
like
of
that.
Course.
But.
Goes back to the intentionality of it.
Right. Exactly. And I don't think we figured out at Pros how to do that intentionally yet. So my little part is that's kind of how I do it. You could never tell, you can't look at person's name and know anything about it. I just want to see that they're involved in an organization. Yeah. And I've actually found other people that are involved in the community, teaching STEM to, younger students or something like that. That's a good quality to have, right? Yeah. So knowing that this is someone who understands that more people that are doing STEM is better, right? And of course. So from the standpoint of, is this someone that's going to support, pulling more people in from diverse areas, is something that I'd be interested in. So
nice.
But again, first is Java.
Yeah.
How did you use it? And then I start to scan the resume for kind of other things that show some sort of leadership or outreach or something like that.
Okay. Do y'all ever get to like the GitHub or like looking at their portfolio or anything? Is it primarily resume?
I don't personally do that because I kind of I'm not hands-on in the code anymore, but gotcha. If they provide the link, I'll look at it, and then when the technical interview, whoever's doing that definitely looks at it. And then that interview is definitely, we do coding examples. Please solve this problem. I have, I'm going to pass you a collection of a list of names or something like that. Mm-hmm. Put it, sort it, or tell me how many duplicate names or gotcha. something like that, to make sure that they kind of can think of the strategy that they would use to solve that problem, as well as kind of how in Java probably that they know how to do that.
Okay. I think that's really helpful, like understanding. I think as a potential candidate, if I'm thinking in their position, like if I know how you're thinking and what you're looking for, that can really help me structure my resume in the best.
You definitely, and I know people that will modify their resume specifically for the job they're applying to.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Right. So if they know Python and they know Java, but they're applying to a Python job, they're going to highlight more of their Python experience versus if they're doing their Java stuff.
Gotcha.
I think that's good advice, because as a hiring manager, the hiring manager is gonna be like, I need someone who knows this today, right?
Gotcha.
And they're gonna lean on the side. They're gonna lean on the side. I need the expert. I need the guy that's just like the tech
Exactly.
lead I have on my team right now.
Less
and
training.
Then, the closest person to that's the natural tendency. And then people, are gonna pull you back and be like, no, you gotta be fair. You gotta remember, everyone's not this person that's been working on your team for 5 years who knows your product intimately. But the more you can kind of, based on what you're seeing in the job description, write out your experience that matches up with that. I think you'll get more hits.
Okay, cool. I like it. So can we talk about money?
We could try.
All right.
I'll do my best.
So I won't ask you about like your current salary. I don't even know if you can share that or not, but unless you want to volunteer, feel free. I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but I won't specifically ask you that. But in your experience, like how much money can a software engineer expect to make?
Yeah, I forgot to do my homework. I meant to go on Glassdoor before I came here just to get the Glassdoor.
Give me a second. Let me put this camera on you.
Empower actually did. We put together this STEM webinar for students last year, and why they should be interested in STEM. And I had a slide on why software engineering is the best type of engineering.
Of course, I agree with it. I don't take no shit.
Because to get in, you don't really need, like, I think in are you mechanical?
Yeah.
Do you have to have some sort of certification or get registered and sort of?
So it's encouraged to take like a FE, fundamental engineering exam, and then take a PE, professional engineering exam. Primarily civil engineers use that, but mechanical, I would say, is the second best behind software because it's so broad. It's like you can do any industry, and you don't always need a certification for it.
Yeah, software engineering, you don't need a certification. Like, I have a master's degree. I don't really and I think the reason I got the master's degree because I wasn't comp sci major. I was a math major, and IBM paid for it. I forgot to mention that.
Very important.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that was free. Like, IBM paid for my master's. So I was like, well, if I'm going to get a master's for free, I might as well do it. But you don't need a master's to be a software engineer. You don't need a certification. You just need to know what you're talking about. These are tools you can use in your home, right? You can do it on your computer. You can practice coding. You can read about different programming languages and put that in practice. And yes, maybe we need to work on how companies are filtering out people that don't have the college degree, because I do think that's probably pretty prevalent, that's usually number one. But you can kind of get around that if you just talk to the right, you work your network. Once you get into the interview and you prove that you understand the languages that you're talking about and you can work on it, at that point, nobody really cares what your background is. They're like, oh, he knows what he's doing. He or she knows what they're doing. And that's enough.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a break from Glassdoor at the moment, but no, I think that's great. That, like, I think if more people kind of took that mindset of like, hey, let's just focus on the people that either already know what they're doing or they're working towards it, versus like, hey, do they have all these degrees and certifications? I think like that's kind of like the core of why I was asking about the portfolios. Like, I think that's like most important. Like, can you produce at the end of the day?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, oh,
like you could be a Harvard dummy. Like, or just Harvard grad but lazy or whatever, like don't do anything. So.
If you know what you're doing, you've practiced enough. I always say it's like a sport, right? You gotta practice. You gotta do your drills every day to keep it fresh. And just understand, not just to solve a problem to get an answer, but understand why. Right? There's a lot of things, especially at RTPE. Performance is a factor. So understanding why one way of doing things is faster than doing another way, solving it another way. But yeah, the entry point is, I don't remember the numbers. That's why I was asking you to go to Glassdoor. But you can definitely get to 6 figures pretty early in your career.
Okay.
The one thing about technology, you have to keep learning, right?
Okay.
So
Always.
definitely, keep learning. Make sure you go somewhere, you get hired somewhere that's going to be supporting continuing training. If they have some sort of program to help you pay for if it's undergrad or your master's, there's companies that did that. So keep doing that and you will keep going up and it'll keep going up. And then and COVID is a very good example of that was great for software developers. I hate to say it, but that's what you're seeing. This great migration that people are doing is right. We weren't losing. I mean, I'm sure all companies didn't come out on top, but basically a lot of software engineers got a lot more options of where they wanted to work, what companies they wanted to work for, because remote was now kind of things that companies were embracing at that point. So I think the demand is just going to keep going up and up for software engineers. Every company needs to have some sort of technical software application.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah. So as a follow-up to the money question, like what kind of lifestyle comes with like being a software engineer or a manager of product development for pros? Are you like able to take trips whenever you want to? We paying for our kids' college, like straight cash, like just throwing racks at the financial aid office? Like what's like the advantages, I guess?
Yeah. As someone whose parents, were, I say I'm still middle class. I'm not, but at the same time, I'm doing better than my parents were, right?
Yeah.
And this is the kind of fights I get in with my daughter, actually.
What? Was like, Mom, she's like, Mom, you got money. Like, stop being cheap. You're like, baby, you don't know.
Right. Because when I was in school, like I had an internship that I hustled into a part-time job when school started. I had campus jobs. I worked at Old Navy.
But your daughter's like, Mom, I don't need that. I got you.
My parents didn't give me any money. My dad paid for my car insurance and he got me a car. So that I got. But otherwise, everything else was I was on my own. And so she gets a a nice allowance.
Monthly.
Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't get an allowance. I had to work more. But aren't you glad things are easier? Better for me, and I'm like, oh, next generation. So
yeah,
the point being, even now, I'll like look at my portfolio and I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. I could, I always thought I'm going to be living check to check to check for the rest of my life, and I'm definitely not in that situation anymore. I was able to, the car my dad got me was like a junker car. I bought my daughter a nice Camry,
I got you.
My son's about to turn 16. So I'm like, oh, you can have a budget. Like being able to be like, oh, I have this budget. This is your budget for your car. You can't spend too much on a boy, right? Because he's going to crash a car.
Not necessarily. I mean, hey, don't do it like that. Not necessarily.
But, I have a 401k. Definitely when you start working, start investing in your 401k.
Okay.
And, some investments that definitely if the rug gets pulled under me, 10 years ago, I would have been like, ooh, what am I going to do? Now I'll be like, I'll be fine for a while. I own a house. I have, I own 3 cars right now, 1 for my daughter, 1 for me. I have a fun car for myself that I inherited from my dad. And I'm about to buy my son a car. How does one person own 4 cars? Like, I'm a single mom. So, it's, it's tough being, independent in that way, right? Mm-hmm. It's a struggle. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm in such a better position because of the career I chose.
Yeah.
Financially, When I got divorced, it was, I was able to stay in my house. I'm still able to live in that house.
Yeah.
And other women, maybe financially they're not able to do that. And sometimes that comes into decision on, whether to leave or stay. So, I've been able to be independent that way. So it's definitely the best career.
Great.
Yeah. And you don't have to go to school for like 8 years and worry about a bunch of stuff. So.
I like that. I love that. The great thing about software engineering is like any industry, like every company needs them now. So I think it's a great career. We've been talking like for an hour already. It's crazy, but it's been like such a good natural conversation that like the time flies. But I do want to ask you one like big picture, high level question, and everybody that kind of sits in that chair, either in person or virtually, like it's always like a common thread where we're all like passionate about increasing diversity in tech. So for you, I kind of want to know like, how do you envision getting more Black women or young girls into tech or engineering? Like, what do you think needs to be done to diversify it?
I definitely think as a high school student, I didn't know this was a career. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was exposed to that to even understand that it was a possibility. I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s. I used to think the Cosby Show, and I know it's got negative connotations now. But back then it was kind of like
world,
it was a doctor married to a lawyer, a Black family, and I was like, this is fun, but I didn't really believe that it was real until I started seeing examples of that. So definitely exposing children to those type of careers so that they'll learn. And I do think that we as a technology community now is kind of also responsible for getting that message out and finding that. So I think the podcast is great. I think tutoring programs are great. And I would like to see if I had a foundation. If I had a foundation, that's what it would be. It would kind of be like, I want to sponsor young women to either for their college career or help them find, help steer them in that way and help them financially as they go through that.
Nice. I love that. This has been like such a pleasure, and I definitely have some ideas. I'd love for you to come back at some point, so I'll be in touch with
you.
Yeah.
I think you need to come over to Interface too.
Hey, I'm for it. Like I'll do it. Like just let me know.
Maybe you let us record in here because Sierra is gonna love this room.
Okay. Yeah. We can figure it out.
Yeah.
Let me know. We can figure something out. But yeah, I had a blast. Like this has been really fun. Tell the people where they can find you personally, and then also the podcast Interface, and then anything else you want to shout out or anyone you want to shout out.
Okay, so I'm Jenny Plummer, Jenni, Plummer, Plummer. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Interface you can find on your favorite. What's your favorite podcast?
Apple. Probably.
So boring.
First of all, I didn't want to judge you, but when I saw you come in with the Android, I was about to give you hell, Jenny. Like, you're a smart woman, cool, but it's no way in hell you should be having an Android walking around here. Like, don't do that.
I don't like doing the thing that everybody does.
Don't make your life harder just to make it harder. Like, there's no glory in that. There's nothing that doesn't serve you. Why would you do that? Why?
Google Podcasts.
What? At least say Spotify. Okay.
So we're on all those. We're on Google. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts and probably some others. Search for Interface. There's probably several podcasts called Interface. I thought it was unique, but it's not. But I thought it was such a clever idea when I came up with it. But
I got you.
But it's Interface, and it's I'll give you. Do you put like show notes? I'll give you the link in the show notes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that we could have a whole nother podcast about doing podcasts.
Hey, it's a whole business.
Yeah, we should do that. But that's the thing. You didn't ask me what I'm most proud of.
What? Let us know.
I'm most proud of that podcast. That was.
Oh wow. Okay.
That was. I wanted to I wanted to collaborate. Oh, sorry. I wanted to collaborate with other Black technology professionals. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I do that? I was like, oh, maybe we'll do a webinar, but I couldn't think of like one topic.
Yeah.
So at some point I was like, because, you know, we all listen to podcasts now. It's like, could do a podcast.
Yeah.
And
you have to now.
And it just, I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Just get started.
And at some point we were like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
I kind of got some other people that were like, yeah, we'd love to help you with that.
Yeah.
And we were like, kind of thinking about this and thinking about that. And then we were like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And we did it. And we did 10 episodes.
That's what's up.
And now we're about to start planning season 2.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's a full-time job.
It is.
It takes a lot of time. So I'm like, now that my son is in school, I'm like, oh, I might have some time for this now again. But that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing I'm most proud of. It's fun. And I love talking about it's almost identical to your format where we pull people in and do their origin story and, you know, get their advice, and it's basically the same stuff. So
nice.
Check it out. So
cool.
Yeah, those are the major ways to get in touch with me.
Cool. Nice. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thanks, Jennifer, for coming on. I've had a blast. For you all who've been watching, I really appreciate you checking out this episode. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at cuSTEM Journeys. That's CUSTEM Journeys, JOURNEYS. This has been a blast, Jennifer. Like, I got some ideas of how we can like make some content together. We're gonna have to chat. So I think
we need to.
Yeah.
I have some ideas for some more guests for you too.
Hey, I'm with it. Like, throw them my way.
Yeah.
Black, Latino.
I'll give you some Meyerhoff student, like
the Meyerhoff crew.
Yeah,
all right, we can do a series on Meyerhoff. We can do a Meyerhoff series.
We could actually. Interface was saying the same thing. We could have a whole Meyerhoff series.
Make it happen. We'll do it. We'll figure it out. But cool. We're going to see you all next week. Thank you all for watching this episode. Thanks again, Jenny, for coming on.
Thank you.
I'll see you all next week. Peace.